Have you been told you need to stop doing what you love, whether it's exercise, running, or a sport? Well, here at Dynamic, we don't like that answer. In this podcast, we'll talk to leaders in the health and wellness space from Southwest Florida to get the solutions you need to get you back to doing what you love. Welcome to the Dynamic Naples Podcast. An athlete of mine asked me the other day, why did I name my company Dynamic? And let me just say, I've taken to calling my patients athletes instead of patients because I don't like the term patient. There's a connotation that something's wrong. I don't like that, so I prefer the term athletes. Anyways, when my athletes said, why did you name your company Dynamic? And I paused and thought about it, and that answer has changed over time. So initially, it just meant becoming resilient. You see, our comfy environments these days has made us kind of weak and fragile. We've gotten very far away from sort of ancestral living. And, I'm not talking about like thousands of years ago ancestral. I'm talking about a few decades ago, a few generations ago, like maybe how great-grandma was living. Things have changed dramatically for us. Things have gotten way easier. Just think of like you live in an air-conditioned house, you go to your air-conditioned car, go to your air-conditioned gym, and your air-conditioned office. So your body never really gets away from that 74 to 77 degree window. You don't have to go find food. You can get in your car and just go to the store and get some. At least most of us can do that. Our environment's very controlled. And over time, that's made us very weak and susceptible to change. So to be dynamic, it really just means getting a little closer in the direction of more ancestral living. So that's kind of where I am with it now. But so what it really started out as is sort of movement-based since I'm a physical therapist. So it means, if you have to go travel and you lift your luggage overhead to put it in the compartment in the plane, you don't throw your back out. If you have to move a heavy planter box, you don't throw out your back. If you go to Disney World and you suddenly increase your step count by, from maybe 2,000 to 10,000 or whatever it might be, you don't have an achy knee. Or you have to go to a conference and stand up in the back of a room for 2 hours. Does your back start to hurt? That's initially what I meant by being dynamic, be able to handle multiple environments, to be sort of flexible to whatever environment you're in. But as I've grown in my practice and in my personal life, it's come to mean some more. I've taken on more of a range of motion of what I mean, or a bigger spectrum of what I mean to be dynamic. After all, to be dynamic is not just the physical realm. It's everything, right? So it's our diet. It's our ability to adapt to temperatures, like I alluded to before. So I did take this course, this physiologic flexibility course that I absolutely love from Dr. Mike T. Nelson. And he goes over sort of 4 of the homeostatic regulators of our bodies. And these are ways to sort of challenge yourself so that you can improve how robust of a human you are. So physiologic flexibility. So for example, pH is one of them. So pH, so when you exercise, your body breaks down glucose into lactic acid and then down to lactose, which it uses for fuel, and then literally hydrogen atoms, which are acid. So your ability to tolerate your pH change, because that's an acid-based scale, the ability to tolerate that is how much endurance you have, basically, how much you can tolerate exercise. So an easy way to do that is to do more exercise, right? That's a simple one. There's the temperature differential. So to be dynamic when it comes to exposing yourself to an environment means like maybe if you live down here in Florida and you're used to the weather down here, then you go up north to visit someone during the holidays and your body has to go through a dramatic change in temperature. Do you get sick or not? Does your immune system handle that? Right. So if you go out of your way to expose yourself to different environments, which means expose yourself to cold down here in Florida, then you're becoming more resilient. There's also your O2 to CO2 tolerance. So the ability to hold your breath, right? There's a lot of overlap too, by the way. The ability to hold your breath can translate over to how much endurance or how much exercise tolerance you can have. So doing things like breath holds can improve your robustness. And then there is blood glucose. It's another regulator. So that's how well does your body, your metabolic system, handle glucose? Does it swing you for a huge loop? Do you crash? Do you get hangry? These are all signs that maybe your blood glucose monitoring or your functioning of your blood glucose regulation is off. This is why I'm a big fan of the glucose monitors. I wore one for a month, and I had a matcha latte from Starbucks that had a little bit of sugar on it, and it sent me way out of range. I was surprised by that. And these are things you can improve over time. So you can manipulate your diet to improve your blood glucose regulation. And that's a term that's also called metabolic flexibility. Can your body handle burning fats and carbs? Is it carb reliant? So these are all questions you can ask yourself. Another metric I look at is how well do you recover, right? So there are tools these days which is kind of cool, such as the Morpheus watch or the Oura Ring. They'll track your heart rate variability, and that gives you an idea of how recovered you are that day. So that's another good way to sort of measure, how adaptable or how dynamic you are. If you had a crazy workout, is your recovery down the tubes the next day? And then, what can you do to fix that? Besides me not working out as hard, there are some things you can do, such as like an ice bath. That's going to help you with your recovery score. So in short, to be dynamic means, can I throw your body into an environment that's a little more challenging than you're used to, and do you adapt to that environment? Do you bounce back, or does it crush you? Do you get sick? Do you wake up the next day and you can't move because you're so sore? Can you go on a 10-mile walk, for example? Is that going to destroy you for a few days? I actually did that a couple weeks ago. I just decided to challenge myself to see if I could do it. Went for a 10-mile walk, which took me about 4 hours. I was a little sore next day, but I was able to rebound from it. I'm not saying I'm perfect. This is definitely a work in progress for me. I'm always trying to improve my robustness or my ability to be dynamic. But this is the way I think that we should be thinking about our health and wellness. Because, as I stated earlier in the podcast, our environment is making us weak and fragile. That's it. That's what dynamic is, becoming anti-fragile. Why guess when you can test? Do you get hangry or crash after a carb-heavy meal? These could be indicators that there is a dysfunction in your blood glucose regulation. If left unchecked, it can lead to irreversible changes. If you catch it quick enough, you can make diet and lifestyle changes that will get your levels where they need to be. 88% of Americans are pre-diabetic and don't know it. Diabetes underpins many of the pathologies we deal with in this country, such as obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. For some reason, it is rarely screened with your physician, and if they do test for blood glucose, it's usually with an A1C or a fasting glucose, which can sometimes give you a false negative. NutriSense is a company that supplies continuous glucose monitors. We've paired with NutriSense to get you real-time data to see how your physiology responds to glucose. The NutriSense app lets you track your daily activity to see how food, sleep, exercise, and stress impact your glucose. You can log or import this data into the NutriSense app to see the effect on your blood glucose levels as soon as it happens. Use the code DrChris25 for $25 off your order today. Do you have unexplained pain, or do you wonder just how healthy you are? When was the last time you had your blood tested? Blood chemistry analysis is a great tool to stay ahead of any health conditions, and now you can have control of your health with Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked is an incredible company that sends blood tests to your home. You can choose from over 30 different tests, whether that's thyroid function, testosterone, micronutrient, cholesterol, or C-reactive protein, which is a marker for inflammation. It is sent to you with free shipping, and you get your results in 2 to 5 days. No physician referral needed. Use the code DPT25 for 25% off. You can find links in the show notes. Did you know that you can get started with physical therapy without a physician's referral? Physical therapists don't just solve pain, we get down to the root cause and keep it from coming back. We also discuss all things health, such as nutrition and lifestyle changes. If you feel that you could use some help, let's get on a free consult call. Go to www.dynamicnaples.com and sign up for a free call. Also, if you like this podcast, please give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us spread the message. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.